There's a specific moment when retirement planning stops being theoretical and becomes terrifyingly real. For most people, it hits around age 50. Suddenly, those decades you thought you had left transform into years, and the comfortable fog of someday evaporates into the harsh light of soon. That shift triggers something primal. Let me tell you what nobody admits during those cheerful retirement seminars. The anxiety you feel isn't about spreadsheets or compound interest rates. It's about confronting your own mortality while simultaneously trying to imagine a version of yourself you've never met. You're planning for someone who doesn't exist yet, using money you haven't finished earning to fund a lifestyle you can't quite picture. No wonder it feels overwhelming. Most financial advice treats retirement planning like assembling furniture. Follow these steps, use these tools, and you'll end up with a functional result. But here's what makes it fundamentally different. Furniture assembly has clear instructions and a picture on the box showing you exactly what you're building. Retirement planning? You're guessing at the blueprint while the materials keep changing price. The first layer of anxiety comes from the sheer number of unknowns. You don't know how long you'll live. Medical science gives us averages, sure, but those numbers feel meaningless when you're talking about your life. Your grandmother lived to 97. Your father died at 62. Which genetic lottery ticket did you draw? This isn't abstract math. Every year of difference represents 12 months of expenses you either need to cover or won't need at all. Then there's the question of what you'll actually need. Right now, you know your life. You know what you spend on groceries, entertainment, gas. But retirement you? That person might want to travel extensively. Or maybe they'll discover expensive hobbies. Perhaps health issues will dominate the budget in ways you can't predict. You're essentially planning a detailed budget for a stranger. Healthcare costs add another dimension entirely. Insurance, medications, potential long-term care. The numbers thrown around in articles are staggering and often contradictory. One source says a couple needs $300,000 for healthcare in retirement. Another says $450,000. These aren't small discrepancies. That's the cost of a house in many markets. But wait, because it gets more complicated. Inflation isn't some abstract economic concept when you're planning 30 years ahead. What costs $100 today might cost $240 in 30 years at just 3% inflation. Your brain understands this intellectually, but emotionally. It feels like trying to hit a moving target while blindfolded and spinning. Social Security adds its own special flavor of confusion. You can take it early at 62 with reduced benefits. You can wait until full retirement age, somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born. Or you can delay until 70 for maximum benefits. Each choice creates a completely different financial landscape. Plus, there's always political uncertainty hovering in the background. Will the system change? Will benefits get cut? Trusting your retirement security to a government program that's been called endangered for decades doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Now layer on investment decisions. Stocks, bonds, real estate, annuities. Each comes with its own risk profile and potential return. Conservative investments might not grow enough to outpace inflation. Aggressive investments might tank right when you need the money. And the closer you get to retirement, the less time you have to recover from mistakes. A market crash at 35 is inconvenient. A market crash at 63 is potentially catastrophic. Here's something that doesn't get discussed enough. The identity crisis embedded in retirement planning. For most of your adult life, you've been defined partly by what you do, your career, your role, your daily structure. Retirement asks you to imagine life without that framework. Who are you when you're not your job title? What gives your days meaning when there's no meeting to attend or project to complete? That existential question bleeds into the financial planning. How much money do you need to feel purposeful, to feel relevant? Some people discover they need less than they thought because they find fulfillment in simple pleasures. Others realize too late that their identity was so wrapped up in work that retirement feels like exile, and no amount of money fixes that particular problem. The advice industry doesn't help. Everyone has a different magic number. Some experts say you need 10 times your annual salary saved. Others say 12 times. Still others focus on withdrawal rates, suggesting you can safely take out 4% annually. Or is it 3% now? The rules keep changing as lifespans extend and economic conditions shift. Oh, and don't forget about your partner if you have one. You're not just planning for yourself. You're coordinating with another person who has their own vision, fears, and expectations. What happens if you disagree about risk tolerance? What if one of you wants to retire early while the other plans to work longer? These aren't just financial questions. They're relationship questions with dollar signs attached. There's also the psychological weight of irreversibility. Most decisions in life can be adjusted. Don't like your job? Find another one. Bought the wrong car? Sell it and get something different. But retirement decisions, particularly around things like social security claiming strategies or pension elections, often can't be undone. You're making permanent choices based on temporary information. That pressure creates paralysis for many people. The comparison trap amplifies everything. Your coworker retired at 55 and seems to be living large. Your sister is still working at 68 because she has to. Where do you fit on that spectrum? Social media shows you endless images of retirement bliss, exotic vacations, and peaceful golf courses, creating expectations that might not match your financial reality. What makes this anxiety particularly insidious is that avoiding the planning doesn't make it go away. Pretending retirement doesn't exist won't stop you from getting older. It just guarantees you'll arrive unprepared. The clock keeps ticking, whether you have a plan or not. So how do you actually navigate this without losing your mind? Start by accepting that certainty is a myth. You will not have perfect information. You cannot predict the future. The goal isn't to eliminate all risk or anxiety. It's to make informed decisions despite incomplete data. That shift in mindset changes everything. Instead of seeking the perfect plan, you build a flexible one. Second, separate what you can control from what you cannot. You can't control market returns, inflation rates, or how long you'll live. You can control your savings rate, spending habits, and when you claim social security. Focus your energy where it actually matters. Obsessing over variables outside your influence is just productive-looking procrastination. Third, stress test your assumptions. Don't just plan for the scenario where everything goes right. What happens if you live to 95 instead of 80? What if healthcare costs double? What if your investments return 3% annually instead of 7%? Run the pessimistic scenarios. If your plan survives the worst case, you can actually relax a little in the average case. Consider working with someone who's seen hundreds of retirement transitions, not because they have a crystal ball, but because pattern recognition matters. A good advisor has watched people make mistakes you haven't thought of yet. They've seen what happens when someone retires too early or too late, or with unrealistic spending expectations. That perspective is valuable. Just make sure you're working with someone who's legally required to act in your best interest, not someone who gets paid to sell you products. Here's an uncomfortable truth. For some people, the anxiety never fully disappears. It just transforms. Before retirement, you worry about having enough. After retirement, you worry about it lasting. The flavor changes, but the underlying fear of financial insecurity persists. Recognizing this pattern helps. You're not failing at retirement planning because you feel anxious. Anxiety is a normal response to genuine uncertainty. The question is whether that anxiety motivates useful action or just paralyzes you. Let's talk about the emotional preparation nobody mentions. You need to practice not working before you actually stop. Take extended vacations. See what it feels like to have unstructured time. Do you get bored after 3 days? Do you thrive with freedom? These experiments provide data your spreadsheet cannot. Financial readiness means nothing if you're psychologically unprepared for the transition. Some people discover they don't actually want traditional retirement. They want flexibility, not complete work cessation. Maybe that means part-time consulting or turning a hobby into a small income stream or volunteering in meaningful ways. Retirement doesn't have to mean doing nothing. It can mean doing what you want instead of what you must. That reframing opens up possibilities beyond the binary choice of working or not working. There's also the reality that plans change, and that's okay. You might intend to travel extensively, then discover you prefer staying close to grandchildren. You might think you want a quiet life, then get bored and start a business. The plan you make at 50 doesn't have to be the plan you execute at 65. Flexibility isn't a bug, it's a feature. Now what about the people who realize they're behind? The ones who are 55 with minimal savings and retirement suddenly feels terrifyingly close. First, panic helps nothing. Second, you still have options. They might not be the options you wish you had, but they exist. Working longer is the most powerful lever you can pull. Every additional year of work means one less year of withdrawals, more time for investments to grow, and potentially a higher social security benefit. Downsizing is another option. That big house might feel like home, but it's also storing equity you could deploy elsewhere. Moving to a lower cost area might sound unappealing, but it mathematically extends how long your money lasts. These aren't fun choices, but they're real ones. The comparison trap deserves one more mention because it's so toxic. Someone else's retirement situation is irrelevant to yours. They have different expenses, different health, different family obligations, different risk tolerance, different values. Building your plan based on what your neighbor is doing is financial planning via jealousy. It never works. Your only comparison should be between where you are now and where you need to be. Everything else is distraction. Finally, remember that retirement is not actually the finish line. It's a transition to a different phase. You're not ending your life. You're reorganizing it around different priorities. Some of those priorities cost money, others don't. The goal is aligning your resources with what actually matters to you. That requires knowing what matters to you, which is harder than it sounds. Most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do envisioning what they want the next 20 years to look like. Flip that ratio. The anxiety around retirement planning is real, valid, and shared by millions of people. You're not uniquely bad at this. You're just facing a complex challenge with high stakes and imperfect information. The solution isn't finding the perfect plan. It's building a good enough plan, staying flexible, and adjusting as you go. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. The alternative is waiting for perfect clarity that will never arrive. Retirement planning anxiety isn't something you conquer once and move on. It's something you manage, adjust to, and eventually make peace with. The discomfort you feel means you're taking it seriously. That's actually the first step toward building something that works. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today, even when those decisions feel impossibly difficult.